Hi folks, Pastor Steve Herring back for part 3 of this 4-part series on the future and on ways that we observe the future, ways that we think about it. In the previous part, I used this feng shui compass that is an older Chinese antique compass. And I use this English compass, which is a much more familiar instrument. That this one is a good one because of the way it points clearly the direction. Now, see, I used a compass as an example because in the Western world, very rapidly after the 1700s, after the Enlightenment, our cultural focus became very heavy on pragmatic activity and action. So the main leaders in the 1700s and 1800s were less and less concerned with divination or superstition or spiritualism, and much more concerned with very simple practical matters like how do you get a ship around the world without losing it? How do you navigate that ship? How do you make sure that you know time and distance? Chronometers, clocks were a huge thing back then because you had to measure the time, you had to measure the depth of the ocean, you had to measure the speed of the wind, you had to map the surroundings as you went. And all of this grew into, with the help of a variety of writers, it grew into a scientific and technological revolution. A scientific and technological revolution that fundamentally changed every single aspect of how it is that we live our lives, and slowly began a process where we came together more and more as people, as human beings. We came together. And the coming together as human beings brought a lot of distress and anxiety to a lot of people, but it also brought a lot of prosperity, a lot of money, a lot of success, a lot of new technologies that would be developed and sold, and that would gradually revolutionize the entire way that we live. And so from 1765, and I began this study with a look at the detail there of my print of Rome, and showed you the footmen on the carriage and talked about just how difficult it would have been for them to transport something valuable from Paris to Rome in that year, how precarious such a venture would in fact be. Now imagine the Spanish trying to send boxes full of gold back from the New World to Spain. They did it, but they also lost a lot of it along the way. Because of the science, because of the technology, because of the progress, we're in a globalized world now, and if I want to send something to China, I just put it in a box and I UPS it and it goes. Okay? I don't have to go. But if I want to go, I can get on an airplane, especially once we deal with COVID and get that out of the way. But yes, I can fly around the world wherever I want to go and get there. And the odds of my getting there in one piece without any major problems are absolutely tremendous, over against the odds of my having some kind of horrible accident. I used to discuss this with my students at great length to help them understand the whole question of probability and what the odds would be that you would have an accident if you traveled overseas. And interestingly, the vast majority of my students, having grown up in Edgecombe County, really believed that it would not be safe for them to travel to Europe. And the fact is that people travel to Europe all the time, and they do it very safely and very reliably. I asked them what the odds were that they could travel to China and back successfully. And they said, oh, they were just, frightened of that possibility. And again, I helped them understand that the probability was that that would be done very successfully with minimal risk, because that is the nature of progress in modernity, in the modern world. But honestly, there are some difficulties with this, because the future has tremendous uncertainties, and you see, the future will involve change, and change is horrifically difficult for us to cope with. We are not really well set up to deal with change. Let me tell you, here's something that I read this morning that really bothered me about the future. I read this is about Elon Musk and the initiative that his companies have undertaken for, Starnet, okay? Now you can Google Starnet if you want to. If you Google Starnet, I think, did I get that right? Is it Starnet? If I'm not mistaken, Peter's going to Google it for me while I'm speaking to you. Musk is going to put satellites up in the sky, thousands of them, thousands of satellites. And those satellites will surround the Earth, and they will create a net around the Earth, which will enable Starlink. It's called Starlink. Okay, I thank you for correcting me. That's what you want to Google. Starlink. Elon Musk, Starlink. I don't know how many years, and Peter, while you're looking it up, if you don't mind, you can tell me when it's going to be expected to be fully deployed, what year full deployment of Starlink is expected to be reached.
2020.
2020 is last year, and it's not in place now. So the full deployment means that it's completely out there. He's just beginning it now, and the first satellites went up in 2020. But here's what's going to happen when it's fully deployed. You're not going to see the stars anymore, as you are accustomed to seeing them. On a clear night in the country, you can walk out in your field, you can look up at the sky, you can see the Big Dipper, you can see Orion, you can see all the various constellations that are up there, you can see the planets, you have, just from any vantage point on Earth where there's not a lot of background light, a magnificent view of the stars. I am fond, on even cold nights sometimes, of walking outside simply to look up at the stars and see them. Well, when this network is, this Starlink is deployed, those stars, if they're still visible, are going to be quite a bit different because of all the satellites that will be up there at that time. And so you could get very upset about that and very troubled about that as an item of the future. But what it will bring is unlimited free internet around the world, globally, at any place in the world, and it will not be long at all before that internet is driven by artificially intelligent quantum computers, which will function radically different than the binary computers that we're using today. And so that will be the future, and it will be different. And it's very hard for us to ponder the advantages and the disadvantages of how this future will take shape for us and for our children and for our grandchildren, and what that future is going to be like, and how we shall consider that future. Now, the primary point in any understanding of the future is a realization that pretty much no matter what you or I do about it, the future is going to be the larger future. I'm talking about the global future, the human future is going to be what it's going to be, irregardless of what we think about it and what we do about it. So for instance, I could get upset about Starlink. I could get all bent out of shape over Starlink. I could pick up the phone and I could call Elon Musk on the phone and I could say, Elon Musk, I don't want this Starlink thing, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think he would take my phone call. I just don't think I just don't think that he would want to talk to me. You see, this is the way it is with the future. Now, I want to really focus on that particular point because you see, right now we have all this mess going on socially and politically about folks arguing about basically at the core, when you really put it, boil it down to the most basic issues that you can, it's about our vision of the future. And it's about the extent to which we are willing to trust in an unknown future versus the extent to which we would desire to try to build a future that resembles what we know, which is our past. And those are two very broad and very general political philosophies that, to the effect that, what is our vision of the future? Where are we going as a people? Where are we going as a species? Where are we going as a planet? Where are we going as a family? Where are we going as a church? Where are we going as a town? Where are we going as a county? We function on all these different levels, you see. Where am I going as an individual? Okay, now, the smaller the system, the greater the input. That you could write that down if you wanted to. The smaller the system, the greater the input. So if I'm talking about the future of the planet and the future of the human species, I can't really do very much about that. Really, not truly. I can't do much at all. If we're talking about the future of the nation as a whole, I'm sorry, I can't do very much. The future of the state of North Carolina, I don't think I can do a whole lot about that either. At the state level, no, don't have a lot of contacts there. Future of Edgecombe County. Well, we're getting better. Yeah, I do know some folks that I can call to talk about the future of Edgecombe County, and they will talk to you, by the way. And there's some really good folks on the county board right now. But if you really talk to them and you really have the opportunity to share with them, they also are very frustrated because even at that level, they still are very limited in what they can do to actually change the future of Edgecombe County, because it has to do with so many issues that are bigger than we are in terms of our connection and relationship into the state and the federal and the global levels of commerce and economy. So it's hard. They don't have a lot. They can't do very much. Okay, Tarboro. Well, I mean, same thing. Go to a town board meeting. Wonderful people devoted to serving their community to the very best of their ability, but even still limited in terms of what real impact we can have on the future, because the future resides so much in the larger systematic issues having to do with the region, the state, the national scene, and the global scene. Where we really have power is ourselves. Really, the smaller the system, the greater the impact. So this is what this scripture is about. The scripture has to do with where we are and how we personally can gain an inner vision, a spiritual vision, a religious vision, a faith vision of our future, quite apart from the future of those larger systems that we cannot do anything to control. And that takes me just to the point now where I'm going to close part 3, and we're going to pick back up again with part 4 and bring this to a conclusion. Thank you, folks.